Hello, this is James from Wheel, and you are watching Loud TV.
So, welcome, James.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Yeah, for this for the very first time on Now TV. Just to introduce your second album, we are privileged to have received it yet. This wonderful album. Of course, I think there is a huge. There are already huge feedbacks for this new album. I think you have reached a new step.
I think so too. I mean, I think it's just everything's improved. I mean, firstly, we've done an album before like this, so I think that helps out enormously. We've gone from last time not really knowing how to approach something like this to having some experience at least doing it. I think the material's stronger. I think the way we produced it is a better fit for us, and I think it's a lot to do with just how it felt touring like we did so much in 2019. So we got really used to how it feels to play live and play together, and the kind of natural place that the groove lies within our band. And we wanted more of that to kind of come through on the recording. So I think we've achieved that.
Yeah. So this is the second album, Resident Human. After moving backward, I think in the style, if you don't know the band Will, it's kind of not so far from one of our best albums so far this year. It's Soen, the Swedish band that you have toured with, right?
That's correct. Yeah, we're big Soen fans.
So yeah, it's of course it's not exactly the same, but it's, I would say, in the same vein. It's rock, prog, or some with metal vibes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I think that the goals are different. Like, we're still really close with Soen. We love those guys. We actually did our first ever kind of international tour with them back at the beginning of 2019. And you know, some bands, when they support like we've been doing, when they go on tour, they don't even meet the headline band for the duration. And at the very first show we did, Martin and Joel came up to us and just said, "Hey, great to have you here. We love your album." And you know, right off the bat, we just really hit it off, and we've remained friends ever since. We've still got a chat group we talk on fairly regularly between the two groups, which is a really nice place to be. And you know, their new album's great. I'm really enjoying it. If you guys haven't heard Imperial, I recommend you check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think stylistically, you know, Martin's always said, you know, he loves making the hits. That's what he's really into doing. But I think they've got really strong choruses in their songs. They've still got this prog metal vibe and backline. And I think our stuff is kind of definitely towards the more kind of artsy side of the spectrum. You know, with 3 songs over 10 minutes long on this record. So there's similarity, but also I think we've both got our own things that we do. And for anyone who doesn't know more about Soen, I think you'd have a good time with their catalogue.
Yeah, something similar also is the black artwork. It's not a snake. It's not a snake on your artwork. It's it's a skull, human skull. We'll go back. We'll go back later on the lyrics, on the topics. But it seems that you have a new lineup for this new album.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a short story. I guess the quickest I can do it is on the second leg of the Soen tour we did in 2019. Our then bassist Mikko Mata had some health problems and had to leave the tour and fly home as an emergency from Greece when we were over there. So we were really agonising, what should we do? We still had a lot of dates left for the tour, and obviously him going home was a non-decision. He was not well and he needed treatment, so it's great he came back to Finland. We were just left with what should we do? We didn't want to disappoint anybody, and but we thought on our feet, and we decided we were going to try and fly somebody out to cover and get through the rest of the tour dates before we worked out what to do next. So we flew out Aki Virta, who flew out to meet us in Milan, and stayed with us for the rest of the shows. And considering he'd never heard of Wheel, he just blew us all away at the first gig. He was rocking out like a maniac to these really crazy songs that he'd had 3 days to learn. And right off the bat, we were super impressed. And when it became clear that Mikko wouldn't be returning, we asked Aki to join the band permanently, and he did. And he's now playing bass on this new album. So that was change number one. After that, we got back from the tour, and Ronnie, our previous guitarist, told us that he also wanted to leave the band because he wanted to be closer to home in Finland. He's got a very young daughter over here, and to be honest, he's not a big fan of touring. Like, he's always enjoyed the shows, but he doesn't like everything around it. So it wasn't a huge surprise, but it was a real blow because he's a good friend. So briefly, JC Haltonen joined the bands to cover, and he was playing with us on our headline tour. He wasn't really the right fit for Wheel, and he's much more of a kind of improviser player. And I think when we realised this was the case, we've split on really great terms. Just the timing was difficult because we were just about to record guitars for the album. So I ended up playing basically all the guitar on the record, apart from the guitar solo in Hyperion, where we got Ronnie to come back in and play as a featured artist on the track. So all of this came to a head over the summer when we asked Jussi Toronen to join, and he is doing an amazing job so far. We've been rehearsing a lot together, and I think his style is exactly the right fit for the band. So we're super excited moving forward. I think hopefully now that's the end of the complicated lineup changes, and this is the way it's going to be moving forward. So it's been really, really weird, but you know, at least we've come out the other side of it.
Yeah, because on the, of course, on the booklet, we can see that you are 3 on the recording process. So yeah, you did almost everything, but we can say that the drums and bass are on the forefront. We can listen really them a lot.
Absolutely, yeah, and why have it any other way? I think, especially on this album compared to moving backwards, it really is all about the groove and the relationship between the parts. And but I think in some metal music, it really suits the style to have the bass kind of more subtle and more of a kind of sub-feeling thing rather than a present melodic instrument. But there's so much kind of juxtaposition between what the guitar and bass are doing. We really wanted to have both of those kind of jacked up so you can hear that interaction, because it's a big part of our sound. And of course, with the drums, somebody's just a monster. I think we tried things we've never done before on this record, like on Hyperion, where we just turned the click off completely and let him go nuts and dictate the tempo for the track. And it was pretty scary trying this new stuff on the fly, but I think the results speak for themselves. I'm really, really happy with how the recording has come out. And I think you really get much more of a sense of how the band feels and how we sound live on this film than we did in our previous album.
So you recorded with Tommy?
Yeah, with Tommy Weinekainen. He's I've known the guy for a really long time. He's a very talented studio tech and mixing engineer in his own right. He's worked with some other bands in Finland we really like, and he's a drummer by trade. And considering he did things like set up the drum microphones for the drum sessions, I think he's really captured somebody's playing. It's the best we've ever done it. I think somebody's got a clearer idea how he wants his kit to sound, and he's got some new cymbals. He's now endorsed by Bosphorus, this Turkish company who can make everything. He's got a new kit. He's now playing Gretsch, and I love the sound of that kit. But everything, the room, the microphones, the desk we were using, it's a sum of all these parts. And Tommy engineered that kit, but then it was mixed by Ilkka Herkman, this very, very talented mix engineer here in Finland. And I think you really get a feeling for just how somebody's style goes and where his groove lies in this recording, which we're really, really happy with.
It seems that you recorded in several rooms, several studios, right? Something like four places.
Yeah, it got a bit complicated. Some of it was about COVID, like we were just trying to be smart about how we set it up. So you can't cheat a good drum sound. I love using samples to write music with. Like when I was composing the instrumentals for these tracks before we started democratizing it and tearing them to pieces, I was using Superior Drummer at home to kind of build the original beat ideas I had and to share those with somebody. But if you want to capture a drummer like him playing a performance really, really well, you need a great sounding room, a great kit, a great player with great mics and a great desk. And without that stuff, if one of those things is missing, then the recording is going to suffer. So we recorded that at Finvox Studios here in Helsinki, and we did the bass at the same time. We ended up doing some overdubs with the bass, but the interesting thing about the bass was the amplifier setup we had. So we had 3 bass channels. One was just a basic DI, and then we had a dark glass setup with kind of very modern distortion sounds, and this old Fender Bassman amp we found in the studio, which Tommy just turned up to 11, and it sounded kind of like Motorhead. We thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Let's go with that. The guitars, that was during kind of the peak of the pandemic here in Finland, so I was recording it at my studio in Espoo, this suburb. We reamped the guitars later on in Sonic Punk Studios, another studio in Helsinki, and finally I did the vocals in a studio called Jiffel here in Espoo also. So yeah, we jumped around a lot, but we were just trying to be practical with what was going on around us at the time.
Now let's see about your vision, because we have to talk about something like philosophical topics. Can we say that?
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty. I can maybe I don't know if it's dark lyrics, but yeah. Are you talking about the sixth extinction?
No, not really. I mean, funnily enough, I've been reading a lot about that lately, but that's for another conversation, I think. On the album last year, I had a bit of a burnout after the after the instrumental parts were complete. And I think it was just compounding that we had these member changes. I've been pushing it really hard on the writing, and then COVID on top of that. But I just hit this wall where I just got really uninspired, and it was really tough trying to come up with kind of what I wanted to say on these songs. We had a really distinct mood, but we didn't have specific subjects to talk about on the record. And around that time, I found this book by Dan Simmons, Hyperion Cantos, which is a fictional science fiction novel with a great story that I won't ruin. And it's not really about the story, it's about some of the underlying themes of the book, which have influenced our record. So the first track, Dissipating, is about this idea of the indifferent universe and how at first glance, it just looks like this hostile thing that wants to kill us. You leave Earth's atmosphere and suddenly you've got sub-zero temperatures and it's a vacuum. And if a cosmic event very, very far away happens, maybe before we even realize it's happened, we'll just cease to exist. All of that's pretty frightening. It makes us feel small and irrelevant and kind of nihilistic about our existence in general. And I kind of came to the conclusion that because all of that is the way it is, and it has no obligation towards us. We have no obligation to it either. We're free of any kind of cosmic responsibility. And I think that means that what we choose to do within the limited frameworks of our lives is actually wonderfully significant and loaded with meaning. Like I say in the chorus of the song, if everything will turn to rust and none of this was owed to us, then all we experience will have to be enough. And I think that's basically the whole point, isn't it? There's so much we're considering and we're talking about on a cosmic scale, but it's all theoretical. And I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Like, everything we do in this life matters. It's significant because as far as we know, that's it. That's all there is. I think we had a similar kind of solution to a different question in Hyperion, which is considering mortality and the idea that we're all on this train ride from birth to death. There's this limited experience, this linear experience between those two places. And we can't change the direction of the train or the speed of the train. And I think we're so immersed in our own suffering and our own experience of this journey. And I'm certainly so immersed in my own experience of this journey that we forget everyone else is having the same existential crises that I am and that we are. And I think, again, a very similar conclusion that every good thing that's ever happened to us, every choice that we make, everyone that cares about us, we are no more or no less deserving of any of this stuff than anybody else alive. Yet, at least from my own perspective, I have so much. And I think I'm just trying to be more empathetic towards the journey other people are on through these same parameters. And all of this, I think, I've been able to explore because of COVID, and just the fact that I was forced to take a step back from my norms and kind of reevaluate how I feel about some of this stuff. So, yeah, it's deep and philosophical, but I think it's all really positive. I think when you realise that half of this stuff we can't affect at all, there's nothing we can do about it. It just is what you're left with. All of that ends up being hugely significant because it's all we can actually change.
And we can read in the song "Resident Woman." Resistance is crucial. We're all immobilized. Yeah, it's kind of a COVID situation.
That one's a bit different. I've been going to a therapist for the past 2.5 years, and one of the concepts I learned last year, which inspired that song, was the metacognitive state of the observer, this idea of being the mountain. And in layman's terms, if the weather changes, the mountain's still there. Trees grow, trees die. People climb the mountain, people leave the mountain just is. It's a kind of psychological exercise about just experiencing the world around us. I was having a lot of stress and anxiety last year, and like many people, for some very tangible and some innate reasons. And it's because we react emotionally to what we see, because we're emotional beings. That's what we do. And I think the current environment and social media and all these other factors only exacerbate these feelings. So the idea of Resident Human is that we're also desensitized and overwhelmed by this bombardment of information all the time, that trying to take a step back from it and to kind of observe it without emotionally reacting to it is a path to just feeling better and being able to cope with some of this information, to make better decisions and to be better people. So this idea of resistance is futile, we're all immobilized. It's there's no resisting it, you know, unless you want to completely shut yourself off from the internet and maybe just live in fiction for the rest of your life, which at least I'm not willing to do. There is something immobilizing, terrifying, and horrifying about the current situation we're all going through, and people's expectations for the future, because all of it, let's face it, it seems pretty bleak and terrible. But a coping strategy is I can't change a lot of that stuff, and it's not my responsibility to fix a lot of that stuff either. I think I'd like to be part of the discussion for how to maybe make some of this stuff better, but I can't change any of it by myself. So just trying to become the observer. Later in those lyrics, this idea of reawaken and reject the hollow, reject the meaningless, because there's only now anyway. This is all there is. So I will remain, and let's all try and become the mountain. I think it's pretty solid advice. At least it's helped me.
You know that I'm less expensive than a psychologist, so it's cool for you.
Yeah, you are exactly in my price range.
Wonderful. See you next week. But your next tour with your friends from Apocalyptica and Epica, I think so. The new album is out. Tomorrow. Sorry. So yeah, it will be a huge tour for you.
Yeah, absolutely. We can't wait to do it. It's going to be one heck of an experience. The venues look great. It's going to be some countries that we haven't played in for quite a while. And I think at least possibly some we haven't played in at all yet. So, yeah, we can't wait. Just I think like everyone else, we've now thoroughly had enough of pandemia and we want to get back to playing shows. So as soon as it's safe to do so, that will be one of the first things we do.
All right. Thank you very much, James.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Take care and let's do this again. And thank you, everyone watching, for caring. Check out our new album. Let us know what you think.
And see you in January in Paris.
I look forward to it. Take care.